Well, hell, son. It's another episode of the Sharpshoot with AuSSy here on Rope Break. Today, we're talking our final thoughts for 2014, who the 2015 breakout stars could be, why the Authority being back this soon might be best for business, and who the hell is going to win the Royal Rumble. This week includes Alec Kozubsky, host of React After Raw on RopeBreakWrestling.com. Alec, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Always good to be on the sharpshoot.
We love having you, man. Definitely better than having Donato. And we also have a special treat this week. Alex Carter from the Talking Wrestling Network is in the building. He presented that award for Faction of the Year on this year's Golden Ropes Award Show. And now Sharpshoot. Alex, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I watched the Golden Ropes Awards show. That was awesome. Great job on that.
Yeah, man.
Well, hell, son.
Holy
It's another
shit.
episode of the Sharpshoot with AuSSy here on Rope Break.
There you go.
And yeah, Alex, thanks for watching, and more importantly, thanks for presenting the award for Faction of the Year. That was pretty sweet. If you haven't checked out the Golden Ropes yet, you can do so right on our YouTube page, right here where you're watching. And if you haven't already subscribed to the page, not really sure why you haven't done that yet, because obviously you want to see the Sharpshoot every single Thursday around this time. And do us a favor, go subscribe to our friends at the Talking Wrestling Network while you're at it. They also have some great weekly stuff up there as well. Now, I mean, fellas, let's get right into it. What'd you get for Christmas? Anything good? Alec, anything, that want to just announce to everybody that you may or may not have gotten for Christmas?
I didn't really get anything good. I just, got a few things, but nothing special, I guess. Nothing wrestling related.
Socks and underwear it was for Alec.
I guess so. We could put that.
Hey, don't worry, never fear, Alec, because still on its way. We had some backup because of the UPS and USPS. They were slow over the holidays. That copy of AuSSy Does the Best WWE theme songs, humming and whistling, on CD is still headed for your house. So, don't get too upset. You're definitely going to have that CD in the mail sooner rather than later.
Man, where can I get my hands on one of those?
Alex.
That's what I'm talking about.
Alex, you might have to pay full price for that.
Yeah.
But tell
man.
us, I mean, did you take home anything awesome for Christmas or no?
A couple of Mr. Sacco's. Got a couple of those, so that's always nice. Otherwise, not much. Not much wrestling related. Oh, let me show you guys this actually. Haven't even opened it yet, so this is the unveiling.
Uh-oh.
The new background.
World premiere on the Sharpshoot.
World premiere of my set. Are you guys familiar with Rob Schamberg?
Absolutely. Excellent artist.
A lot of excellent wrestling related art. Well, check out that.
Very nice.
That is a pretty sweet setup right there.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. A lot of my favorites on there, so definitely excited to get that framed and get it put up. Other than that, though, yeah, not much.
Sweet deal. Well, so a lot of socks and underwear around there for you guys. If you haven't noticed anything new here in Studio AA for Rope Break Wrestling, I did walk away, with hands full of shit, including these two cardboard cutouts that are behind me here, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Seth Rollins. Wasn't sure, I'm not sure if it's the same for you guys, but it definitely is for me. I'm the Lone Ranger when it comes to wrestling fans in my family, and everybody, they like to hate on me, like to pick on me for liking wrestling. And these cardboard cutouts, they thought they were joking around and picking on me by getting these cardboard cutouts. Little did they know, I was set to mark out when I got these, and these were the first things that I set up immediately when I got back home.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, these guys are going to be joining us on the show here from now on as I try to configure my camera here because something's going wrong. Either way, let's get right into the show here. We obviously today is New Year's Day. In the United States, at least, it may be a different day where you're watching, but we are going to be talking about our closing thoughts for the year 2000. 2014, definitely a sweet year for the most part in WWE. And as you see, Alex, starting to get festive here on the show with his New Year's hat. But 2014, definitely a solid year, in my opinion, in WWE. We had a great storyline with Daniel Bryan and the Authority, arguably one of the top 3 WrestleManias of all time. Some pretty solid pay-per-views mixed in, here and there. Obviously, not everything was golden, but as far as my opinion goes, I think it was a pretty solid year all around. What do you think, Alec?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you. There was a lot of good stuff that happened this year. I think where WWE mostly dropped the ball was with the network and the content on the network getting it released in certain countries, and the same thing with the production value of Raw and SmackDown. I feel like those have dropped significantly, especially this year. They didn't seem up to par, like they were putting enough effort into each of those shows. So overall, but that's where kind of their fault lies for this year. But everything else was pretty much decent.
Yeah, it's a common theme ever since we've gotten that 3-hour edition of Raw. It seems that every single year we've seen a steady decrease in, just how exciting the 3-hour show can be. Unfortunately, I just don't see them ever going back to the 2 hours just because of advertising. I mean, they probably make a sweet deal worth of advertising during the 3-hour block.
Right.
It has to be. And obviously they have a deal with USA where USA is expecting a certain amount of time every Monday night. And, let's face it, even though they're not doing ratings that they were, that they used to do, 3 hours of Raw is still doing better ratings on USA than, Chris Lee Knows Best.
Hey, that's a great show.
I mean, I know it sounds funny, but it's the truth, Todd Chrisley just isn't raking in the ratings nearly as much as Raw, even though Chrisley Knows Best does do pretty solid ratings. But Alex, do you think that the 3-hour plan is to blame, or do you think that that's more of an excuse and WWE should still be able to put on a solid 3-hour show?
Oh, I think it's 100% to blame. I've been a huge supporter of 2-hour Raw pretty much since 3-hour Raw came around. I mean, you take the same amount of television time from 97, 98, 99, and you take that amount of television time out of 2014, at the best moments, you've got a super solid year. You know what I'm saying? So that extra hour is kind of where I see the fault. You try to stuff 3 hours worth of content every Monday, you're not going to have a solid show from beginning to end. And I think the way that they could fix this, like you said, the advertising dollars, I say they do an hour pre-show. They like to show us what's happened in the past week during Raw, so why not put all that into a 30-minute hour block Raw pre-show, airs the first hour, and then you go back to your 2-hour Raw. You still get all the same advertising, but you only have to write 2 hours of show every week. So.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty solid idea because one of the points you bring up is, they like to remind us of what happened last week. That is a great deal of the filler material that we see in the 3-hour show is, let's take a look at what happened on SmackDown. Let's take a look at what happened last week on Raw. Look at what happened on Main Event. It's like nobody cares. We all watched last week.
Right.
We don't need what happened on last week's Raw because we watched it, unfortunately. But we did either way. So, Alex, I have to agree with you there. I like that idea of a pre-show, although, I think we're kind of just shooting around pointless ideas here because it's clear with what they've got there in WWE that they're not really interested in listening to anybody that has any idea of what they're talking about. So obviously we're just shooting sticks and stones here at WWE, and it's probably not going to make a difference. But that's kind of what this show is about: is getting our opinion out there just in case. You know what I mean?
Go ahead and write us a check right now, WWE. We just solved your television problem. Cut us a check.
Yeah, definitely. And every single week, that's what we're doing on this show, too, is we are giving legitimate solutions to the problems that are happening in everyday WWE. But as far as 2014 goes, I have to say, Alec, you made another good point that, with Raw faltering the network was also a big deal. Some countries didn't get the network. They weren't, the network has been a polarizing topic of discussion for many reasons. Now, I still think that the network's value, no matter what. I complain about it every single day. Every night when I crawl into bed, I'm looking on the network for something to watch, and I'm like, God damn it! There is nothing new to watch on this goddamn network. And to make that even worse, they're on Twitter and on Raw and everything promoting old shit that's on the network. I'm not talking old pay-per-views, but I can't tell you how many times they've told you after Raw, check out the WWE 2K15 roster reveal. It's like, what the hell? The game has been out for over a month.
Yeah,
Right.
Nobody
I
needs to see the roster reveal. It happened in August.
I gotta say though, the
Go
network.
ahead, Alex.
I completely forgot about that. The network is it's huge. Yeah, they're not putting out a ton of per se new content, but I mean, I go back. I watch like just old stuff. Like I've caught up on the 2000. I really wish they'd put some Raws on there. They don't have any. They have like one Raw from every year, and they've got like 200 episodes of Nitro. Put some Raws on there. Like I want to see the Raws from 2001, 2002, and from 97, 98. Like that's the only gripe I'd have about the network. I mean, the network is great. I always go on there and I can always find something that just entertains me for a couple of hours. So I have no complaints about that. I think you look back like even just 5 years ago, you're thinking like, oh man, as a wrestling fan, if I could have one thing, and then like the network's that one thing, it's like it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and really the only legitimate gripe that I have about the network, and it's not even necessarily a gripe because, again, I no longer have to pay $60 for a pay-per-view. So,
Right.
whatever concern I have about the network is just, additional me being a, complainer. But when they announced the network, we were promised Tough Enough, a return of Tough Enough. We got this Legends House show, and then we were teased with rumors that Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan were going to be on the second season, and everybody's getting ready to nut in their underwear, and it hasn't happened. So I guess I'm just being a spoiled brat when I say I really want some more, additional content, like another season of Legends House, or even these shows that they come out with, rivalries, Monday Night Wars, countdowns. Those shows are awesome, but they're not consistent. Like the Monday Night Wars thing, for a while they were releasing an episode a week, and then all of a sudden it's like, out of nowhere, they disappear for 2 or 3 weeks. It's like, I don't get it. Is there
Those
supposed
are
to be
great,
some
but
kind
it's
of
like it's a lot of
consistency?
repeat material. Like they repeat
Yeah,
this.
especially the interviews.
Yeah, and I mean, I've noticed with the Monday Night War, it's so WWE biased or
Yep.
WWF biased. It's almost like sickening to watch sometimes. I mean,
Yeah, that's why
but the
I stopped
thing is
watching.
when they keep repeating, they're like, oh, and Ted Turner debuted on the same night as Raw, Monday Nitro. It's like, yeah, you said that in all other 15 episodes. Like, thanks for reminding me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they really do. The Monday Night Wars show, although cool, it is a lot of repeat stuff. Like, I can't help but notice the one particular interview session that they did with Eric Bischoff, where when he had finally come to Raw, like you can see like the 2003 or whatever set behind him, and
Yeah.
he's just talking about how he fucked up in WCW basically, and they use that
Over there
interview
with, like the
for
fishing
so
pole,
many
like
different
a $100
things.
bill on it. Like, yeah, yeah. Talk about WWE and pop.
I caught you $1.
Yeah, I got you. You know what the best part about the Monday Night Wars? If you go back and you watch, there's a segment with Triple H, Vince McMahon, Stephanie, and John Cena. All of them are like, oh, we don't like to insult the fans' intelligence. John Cena has one where he's like, in the Goldberg, John Cena's like, you got to change your gimmick. You can't have the same gimmick or people are going to get bored.
Yeah.
Stephanie's like, we always like to keep our content new, interesting, and we never like to insult the fans' intelligence. And I'm just like everything they say is just super hypocritical when you look at it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, totally contradictory, that's for sure. I mean, changing gears here, I think we're all in agreement that the network a great thing that happened in 2014. Definitely still some improvements that can be made, but hey, it's here after many years of what was rumored. It's finally here. 2014. It was a big deal then. Alec, what do you think when you think of 2014? You think of WrestleMania 30, you think of SummerSlam, you think of all these different things, all the big things that happened in the year. What stands out to you though as wow? People are going to look back on 2014 and say, I can't believe that happened.
I think the most obvious answer here is the streak breaking. I think the streak finally falling is probably the biggest moment of 2014.
That's such a good answer, and you know what? That wasn't even the first thing that came to my mind. So, this is why this is why I like to have Alec on, and why I like to get a select group of people on the show, because I could have said 10 other things before I got to that, but right when you said that, I was like, yep, that's it. That's probably the number one thing that historically we're going to go back on and say, 2014, wow, the streak finally ended. But, as far as 2014 goes, other things like, for instance, that was the year that Brock Lesnar held the title and didn't show up on TV for the entire year. But Alex, 2014, what stands out for you?
Man, I'm with you. I was like, you mentioned the question, and that wasn't the first thing that came to my head. The first thing that came to my head was the Shield breakup, actually. And then he mentioned the streak, and I was like, oh, why did I miss that? But I think if we look back in like 6 or 7 years, and we've got like Dean Ambrose at the top of the company, and Seth Rollins at the top of the company, and Roman Reigns in TNA, I think we'll be thinking, I think we'll be looking back at this and being like, wow, I remember in 2014 when they broke up. So I think that was huge because they haven't built a faction like that in a long time. I mean, that's like Evolution breaking up when Triple H got the thumbs down, and I mean, that's big. Like,
Oh
that's
yeah, big stuff for sure. Definitely. And I mean, I go back to the Brock Lesnar thing. If he leaves for UFC, Lesnar, he really cemented himself as one of the biggest heels of all time, regardless of whether or not he was on TV. He came back and in 2014 ended the streak, won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and did so by decimating John Cena with 16 German suplexes.
Yeah.
That's an image right there that's going to be played for a long time to come. Now, we just mentioned 3 things that happened in 2014 that are, that rank up there as far as WWE history. The Shield, one of the greatest factions of all time. I know a lot of people like to overrate old stuff, just because it's old and people are nostalgic. But Shield is one of the best stables in WWE history. They break up, like Alex said. The streak, probably the number one. It's Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak. The streak ends, and then Brock Lesnar, who came, saw, conquered, left, came back, and saw and conquered again.
And left
and he's
again.
probably going to leave again. Yep, exactly. And then, there's a plethora of other things. But we sit here and we talk about how good, some of these things were. Fans out there that are just absolutely appalled with the current product right now. And I think that still goes back to the 3-hour Raw and a lot of the stuff we're seeing. But really, the number one thing that I have to say about 2014 is holy shit, creative sucks.
I see. I have a weird stance on this, and like a lot of people are probably watching this, and they're like, "Yeah, man, the Attitude Era," and like, yeah, it was great. But you go back and you watch that, and a lot of the stuff from there was really dumb too. Like you go back and you look at it with a nostalgic sense that you're like, everything was great. Everything for that whole like 5-6 years from 95 to 2001 was just fantastic. It's like, no, it wasn't that good. Like, there was a lot of good stuff there, but there's a lot of good stuff with the current product. And creative, they're writing for you've got 2 hours of NXT, 1 hour of NXT, 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 hour of main event, and then network content too. So they're writing a lot more. Back in 97, 98, they were writing for 2 hours of Raw and then one pay-per-view a month, and that was it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, well, that's definitely a valid argument, and I've heard that argument made many times. And I am kind of an attitude era mark, but I do agree with you on some points. As far as the writing goes, I think that's neither here nor there, just because back then they had 2 writers, now they've got 22 writers. So I think, the amount of content they have to write is not necessarily, something that really plays a factor there. But what does, without a doubt, is that change adding the extra hour to their main show. So
Yeah.
we're talking about 2 and 3 hour Raws. Back in the Attitude Era, you had 2 hours, so a much more concentrated product. Not only that, but there's a couple other things that I think really play a factor in the difference between the Attitude Era and now. I think number one being the demographic. So nowadays, and maybe I'm just speaking from personal experience, but nowadays when I go to a WWE event, I'm noticing that a lot of the people that are there are not even there to watch. They're there because they're bringing their kid to watch. So I think the crowds are just totally different from the Attitude Era. If you go back and look at an Attitude Era Raw or pay-per-view, you'd be hard-pressed to find a single person in the crowd that does not have a sign.
Yeah,
Like,
I noticed that. That's something huge I noticed.
yeah, and it's just a bunch of horned-up, adrenaline junkie, like teenage dudes in the Attitude Era, like screaming at the top of their lungs versus like 2 parents and a child that can, the child can barely let out a scream for John Cena, and that's about it. So I think the crowd makes a big difference because let's face it, just look at this past week's Raw. It was a great Raw, but the crowd was kind of ugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that crowd was that much better, that show would have been that much better. Because when the crowd gets hot, it just gives a different feeling to the show, at least for me. And
No, I agree.
Yeah, I agree completely.
The crowd plays a factor. That extra hour plays a factor. And then I'm telling you, we have great talent now, but there is a difference between the talent then and the talent now. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the talent that we have now, but when you're talking about The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, The Undertaker, Kane, man, that for a top John Cena, Ambrose, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt. Did I really miss anybody in there?
Yeah, but part of that is also how they've built the talent.
Right, exactly, the creative.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, the 2 writers in the Attitude Era compared to 22 now. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, this is kind of like how they built the characters in '95. I mean, I feel like we're going backwards here. Like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
have you ever heard of the
could
butterfly effect?
definitely draw.
Like where you
Yeah,
maybe like
you can definitely draw
go to the
some
Attitude Era and then you go back down
comparisons.
like a butterfly.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, they say history repeats itself,
Yep.
and I think you can a conclusion to that because you're looking at on this show. It's like a second new generation era because there's a changing of the guard happening, and you've got a guy like John Cena who's can very easily be drawn to a guy like Hulk Hogan, and you've got kind of the end of his era fizzing out, and you've got these guys like Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt that are forcing themselves onto the main event, whether they fit the description or not.
Right.
So I think that we're at the cusp of a new era in WWE. Unfortunately, I mean, people are always talking about the Attitude Era. Will it ever come back? It's not going to ever come back. Society as a whole is just much different than it was in the 90s, and there's just not room for that type of product anymore. But I think they can definitely do more interesting stuff. The number one gripe that I have with creative, and we'll move on from this topic after I say this, but the number one gripe I have with creative is the extreme lack of character development.
Yeah.
We just see a lot of times, we just see matches thrown together, and you can't really tell a story in the ring without telling a story out of the ring as well. And you look at the all-time great feuds. We're talking Rock and Austin. We're talking HBK and Bret Hart.
Yep.
Triple H and The Rock. Anything.
Triple H and Shawn Michaels.
Exactly. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, John Cena and Edge, Edge and Matt Hardy. You're talking about just stuff that was excellent. You're looking at, oh God, a lot of it was built outside of the ring. Triple H,
Yeah.
Chris Jericho, Triple H, Randy Orton. You know,
When
you
Stone
have to
Cold
get the
went
fans
to-
emotionally invested.
Yeah. Stone Cold almost got shot.
Yeah, and then you look back at Triple H and The Rock. Triple H has Rikishi run The Rock over. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, just stuff like that doesn't happen anymore, and I pop every time they do any type of character development. Example: this past week on Raw, when they gave Ryback the microphone. Okay, the promo might not have been that great, but guess what? Now the fans can relate to Ryback a little more. Now that we know
Yep.
he doesn't just come out and go, "Feed me more, feed me more." And that's it. Like, if you want a character to really get over, he has to have some type of relatable feature or characteristic. And Ryback now does. He's proved that he's a human being. So,
Man.
that remains to be seen. And as long as they go forward with character development, that's what it's all about for me. So I think teams should get together as a whole and make a New Year's resolution to get some more character development on their shows. Don't fill that TV time, that third hour, instead of being filled with the Bunny and Adam Rose and Los Matadores and Bull,
Santino.
the little fucking El Torito and that shit like that. Dedicate that extra time to developing characters, telling backstage stories, doing that sort of stuff. And that is how you will get your talent over, and there will be no brass ring grabbing needed. But with that, let's move into the next topic here. Out with the old, in with the new. Let's talk about potential breakout stars for 2015. Alec, I want to hear from you. We got Dolph Ziggler there in the picture. A lot of fans on Facebook were saying Dolph Ziggler is going to break out in 2015. Could this finally be his year? And if not, or if so, is there anybody else that really sticks out as this guy is going to blow up in 2015?
Besides Dolph, I would say if he has a good year, I would say Bray Wyatt. He has the potential, but obviously he has to be booked right within creative. And then, obviously, he's already kind of breaking out, but Seth Rollins, if WWE does the right thing with him over the next few months, he could seriously have a really big year. He could become the champion if WWE does things right. So those are kind of the two guys that really have a chance to have big years in the WWE are Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I think as long as both those guys stay far away from John Cena, I think they can definitely. I think I'm in agreement. And I'm not even hating on John Cena, honestly. But if you look back, we might have said the same thing last year about Bray Wyatt, and then he enters an excellent feud with John Cena that really got him nowhere. So hopefully Bray Wyatt can, ascend to the next level, because I think he's one of those guys that can be a next level heel for a long time to come. Alex, your thoughts on potential breakout stars for 2015?
Man, this is a good one. There's so many. Rusev for sure. If they keep building him, I think Ryback. We finally got some character from Ryback, and Ryback's better than Roman Reigns. I mean, I think that's clear. I think Ryback could be a breakout. Dean Ambrose for sure. Bray Wyatt, like you said, Alec. Ziggler, of course. I feel like I don't know. Daniel Bryan, I guess he's already breakout, but we'll talk about him
but
later.
It's almost like we have to, do the fast forward with him, or the rewind, and see if he can pull off what he pulled off last year.
Breakout again. Seth Rollins, man, when he did that segment on Monday Night Raw where he was like, You should know me better than that, John. I'm gonna kill him anyways. I was just marking out. That was awesome. Like that Seth Rollins where he just got so intense, like he was gonna break Edge's neck. I mean, it's hard to believe that a couple months ago we were talking about how this guy has no mic skills. Like, I mean, it's kind of come full circle. Now we've got Roman Reigns where we're trashing him, but I mean, Seth Rollins, he's come a long ways in just a couple of months even. Um, yeah, I mean, all those guys that I talked about. Let's see, NXT guys, Kevin Owens. If he comes up to the main roster, I mean,
It
there's
really
tons.
it really poses a question when we list a handful of guys that are right on the cusp, and even the NXT guys, Sami Zayn, is extremely over down there. You say Kevin Owens, we think about Finn Balor. Uh, I don't think we're going to see really extreme ascension from Hideo Itami just yet. Just history says that might not happen, but yeah, a lot of guys, and it brings up a couple questions that I've got for you guys, and that is, we talk about guys getting buried and potential of guys, and where do you draw the line with certain people? Because, like I said, if you're thinking about the Attitude Era, you're thinking about a list of guys that were all going for a top spot. You've got, I mean, let's just think about this. Let's just say a year like, 2000 to 2001. You've got The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Kane, Mick Foley still at the end. I mean, even a guy like Rikishi was there in the picture for a while in 2000, 2001. So that's 8 dudes right there. Anybody would make the eight, you know what I mean, in that 1 to 2 year span. But obviously, they weren't all in the main event at the same exact time. So I think nowadays, when somebody doesn't see their favorite superstar in the number 1 or number 2 spot, they're immediately crying about it or saying that so-and-so is getting buried. So where do we draw a line where a guy is still a success? Is it because of the 3 hours and because of the filler material or what? I'm not sure, but maybe it's just we need more complex storylines for these guys. But yeah, I'm looking at Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, John Cena ain't going anywhere. Randy Orton's not going anywhere. Dolph Ziggler, Rusev, Ryback. We're up to 9 guys already. And obviously, WWE has shown within the past couple of years that they are not capable of producing enough complex stories to keep all of these guys in interest and in contention for the top spots. So, it poses the question, who gets left out? And we were, Alex, you mentioned we were talking about Seth Rollins being, not the best out of the 3 on the mic, but we're talking about a guy like Dean Ambrose, who could be argued he might be the best guy on the mic out of that Shield group there. And what could happen to him? Because it's been reported that he's going to be putting Bray Wyatt over here to keep Wyatt strong for a possible match with The Undertaker. So what happens? I mean, if he just loses out here, Alec, do you see room for all these guys? Or
I mean, again, it comes down to creative and how they book them, how they write their character development. And I think the worst thing about Dean Ambrose is we're not really seeing, I guess, good matches out of him because we keep seeing gimmick matches. We're not seeing, a 20-minute singles match. We're seeing a 20-minute gimmick match. So we're not really seeing what Dean Ambrose is going to do in the ring. We just keep seeing kind of these gimmick matches happen with him, and so that way, Wyatt can pick up the win and look strong, and Dean Ambrose is still over as a face, but at the same time, we're not really getting enough out of him. But with these group of guys that could possibly, break out, it really is going to come down to who is really going to fit in that title picture the best, who makes the most sense creatively to be in that title picture, to be in the top spots overall. Because some guys just, you think they might be able to do it, and then obviously they'll crash and burn, and sometimes that's what needs to happen. You just need to put the guy in there, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then they just crash and burn, and you move on. sometimes you have to, I feel like the company just needs to take risks sometimes with different guys and see what happens.
And what I mean, when is the maybe Alex can answer this one. When is that point where you throw a guy in there, and when do you pull him back out of there before he gets completely burned? Because right now we're seeing a guy like Roman Reigns, and very soon he could have some detrimental damage done to him as a character, as a face, if they continue on with him, because not a lot of people want to see him in that role just yet. Yeah, I think if they went about it at a more natural pace, he could be very over, and if they let him just grow naturally, we don't see that. I think the problem is with these guys. Number one, like I said, we don't see enough complex storylines that get people involved and attached to certain characters. So, you look back over the years, and like I said, I alluded to that Randy Orton and Triple H feud. I think it was 2009, right, where Triple H went into Randy's house with the sledgehammer.
Oh yeah.
That's the type of stuff that makes you go, oh yeah, I'm with Triple H. Randy Orton's, a fuck boy.
Wasn't that Vince McMahon's house actually?
But
like in real life. I
That's
think that was like one
that's
of
quite
Vince's
possible.
houses.
I'm not exactly sure.
But
I wouldn't be surprised if Vince just went into somebody's house. Hey, we'll give you $1 million. We're gonna fuck the place up here.
let us use it. It's a great location.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
What you're gonna say, Alex?
Well, with what Alex said, one thing about Dean Ambrose, I've followed his career since Jon Moxley. I mean, he's been one of my favorites on the Indies, up through FCW, and then into WWE. So, I mean, I'm kind of biased towards the guy, yes, but I've also seen what he can do. And yeah, he can do great matches, but if you look at his CZW work, a lot of his stuff was gimmicky type matches. The difference, of course, being in CZW you've got blood, glass, and
Right.
forks and razor blades, and in WWE you've got cotton candy and balloons and teddy bears. So there's that. But I think that he can put on a good performance in these gimmicky type matches. I mean, I've enjoyed them, to be honest. Like putting
Oh, I have too.
Bray through tables and stuff. I think they made him look a little stupid in some of them, but he's got that unstable, crazy character, so I don't think it hurts him that much. The guy I see getting left behind would be Roman Reigns. I think they're putting him, they're throwing him in the water right now without floaties, and he needs floaties. Like, he is not ready. I mean, Ambrose and Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, they know how to get over. They went into a different place every single night, and they got over. For 365 days a year, they would go somewhere new and they would get over. They know how to do that. Roman Reigns, he had FCW, and that's it. So he's at an extreme disadvantage. He doesn't know what to do. Like, we're bashing him because, yeah, we've been watching the product for 20 years, 15, 20 years. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We're bashing him, but we know what it looks like when people get over. He doesn't know what that is. Like, he doesn't know how to do that. So I think he's going to kind of get left. WWE's going to realize, oh, this guy's not what we thought, and then they're just kind of going to shove him under the rug. So I see him being the one left behind in this whole Shield situation.
I think that Roman Reigns is not necessarily going to be left behind, but I think that if they do say, hey, this guy isn't quite what we thought he was going to be, that could be the best thing for him. I always go back to a quote that The Rock said, and they still have it. And every time they play like a Rock interview on any of these like shows on the network and stuff like that, The Rock once said that the thing that made him, so special was when he was angry, or when he was on TV and he was angry or mad or happy or whatever, he really made himself feel that way. So it was never really acting for The Rock, because when he went out there and cut a promo, he made himself feel the exact way he was portraying himself to be. So, and I think you could very easily see the difference there between Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins, that heel promo with Edge this past Monday Night on Raw, like you said, Alex, that was believable stuff. You are really believing that Seth Rollins is that dude. He is that big of a heel. He got massive heat for that. When Roman Reigns comes out and says something, you don't believe it
Right.
because he doesn't believe it. And believe that.
Believe that. Believe in me.
You know, you can't make anybody else believe something if you don't believe it yourself. So, when The Rock came out there and he was saying shit, he really meant it, or he really felt that way. And that's why it came out the way it did. Same with Austin, same with Triple H, any of those guys. You look at anybody that can cut a promo, you can't tell they're acting. You can't tell a difference.
And you get another
Roman
thing
Reigns
is we still look at him as Roman Reigns of the Shield.
Yep.
Instead of Roman Reigns. Like Ambrose, he made a change to his character. He looks nothing like his Shield character. So much to the point, like if you're playing 2K15, you're like, man, I wish they had the new Ambrose. Man, I wish they had the new Rollins. Reigns looks the same, you know?
Yeah, and
they should have changed the character a little. You gotta have that visual to go along with the actual storyline that this guy's different.
Right. And I've said that many times, and this is something that Alec and I talk about. We've talked about it on the show before, but Alec, why don't you allude to that a little bit more? As far as Roman Reigns, you know what I say about his theme song.
Right. See, my theory is, and I said this on React on Monday, that I feel like Reigns is playing it too safe with his character, with the people backstage. I feel like because he knows the position he's primed to be in. We've known since, the summer that he's supposed to win the Rumble and then go on to win the title at Mania. I feel like this guy's playing it too safe. He's not taking chances. He's not really, showing what he can do. Because if you watch a Roman Reigns interview with anybody else, he's a good talker. He knows how to talk. He has charisma. He is great in interviews. But then when he gets on the mic within WWE, it doesn't translate. His attitude doesn't translate. He's playing it too safe with this character. He's not taking chances. He's not saying to people backstage, no, I don't want to do that. Let's try this. He's just, being a yes man and saying, all right, I'll go out and do that because he knows the position that he's primed to be in, and he doesn't want to fuck that up.
Right.
Yeah, and I say, like Alex said too, it's a lot of. I don't know exactly how much of it is Roman Reigns, but yeah, Alec, you're right. He could have very easily stepped up and said, hey, I'm out of the Shield now. I don't want the Kids Bop version of the Shield's theme song to play when I come out.
Cargo pants and
and the
gun on
terrible
the back.
vest. Yeah, he still can't find a trim color. All the trim that he had, he's got Jeff Hardy pants and an ugly vest that looks like something that might be sold at H&M for men. I just don't get it. Like, when do you? Yeah, you're right. There's no difference.
You just ripped like Jesus. Like, take the vest off. Just go out without, like, Batista with the dress pants. That was awesome. Like, back in 2007, Batista would come out and like rip the suit jacket off and just be like ripped like Jesus, and then he's got dress pants on and like loafers, like Italian loafers. That was awesome.
Yeah, even so, I mean, you wanna talk about the suit? Let's talk about Superman. Let's talk about Clark Kent.
Yeah.
If you want to really allude yourself to be a character like that, why are you coming out looking like the big boss man's 25-year-old son? I don't understand that. He should be coming out, in whatever, or I can't necessarily say I've got the perfect setup for Roman Reigns. I don't know if he should be in trunks or what. But yeah, you're right, Alex. Dude's ripped. He's shredded. And he's popping ovaries here and there. I don't understand why, he's got it all covered up. And he just doesn't, I don't know. There's just not that connection. You want to talk about it factor. Vince McMahon wants to talk about it factor. There is no it factor with Roman Reigns. He's got the perfect look, but he has nothing else.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I mean, we saw on Raw Monday, you put him in a match against one of the best workers on the roster. People constantly say, like, I love working with Daniel Bryan. Like, I come out and it feels like I had a night off. They say the same thing about Seth Rollins. You had a match with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and that didn't even look good. Like, that's how bad the guy is in the ring.
Well, I will say, at the end of that match, they had an excellent sequence. At least I felt it was excellent. And I think that Rollins did a good job dealing with Reigns, um, making him look a little bit stronger than he can do on his own. But yeah, when you're Roman Reigns, we talk about a lot of times nowadays, everybody's talking about technical wrestling ability. Everybody's, enthralled with these guys like Rollins, like Daniel Bryan, that can wrestle, that are technical. Back over the course of time, if we're talking about the greatest superstars of all time, they're not necessarily the best technical wrestlers. The Rock is nowhere near the best technical wrestler that you've ever seen. Stone Cold was a great technical wrestler,
Yeah.
but he didn't play that with his Stone Cold character. He was more of a brawler as Stone Cold Steve Austin. You look at Hulk Hogan, John Cena. None of these guys are the best workers out there. So, I'm not looking for Roman Reigns to be doing, Hurricane Ranas and stuff like that, but
you want to see him be able to carry a match. Like when you're the face of the like John Cena, one thing I'll give him is you can put John Cena up against anybody, and it might be 5 moves of doom. He knows how to call a match in the ring though. I don't know if Roman Reigns is there yet. Like that
definitely not.
gives itself to being a good worker. You could put anybody in it. You could put Joe Schmo from Idaho off the street in the ring with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's going to be a decent match. Like when you have the top guy, top level of your company, you need to be able to do that. And I don't think Roman Reigns can do that. You put him in a match, he'll Superman punch you, he'll shoulder tackle you, and then he'll pin you for 3. Like that's it. And the other guy is not getting any moves in edgewise. So.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That I guess that can conclude the Roman Reigns bash session. But the thing is I think we can all agree. At least I know Alec and myself. I'm rooting for Roman Reigns. I really am, because the guy does have an excellent look, and if he's utilized properly, he can definitely be a guy that can be built as the top face of the company. The problem is we just don't see the build anymore. There has been nothing for me. It used to be you got some steam behind you, and they gave you the Intercontinental Championship, and then they took that as your tryout for do you got what it takes to be the top of the line. Nowadays it's, ooh, this guy looks good, or ooh, he fits our build, we're going to jetpack him to the top, and then it backfires and it screws these guys over. Because I'm not blaming Roman Reigns here, for his faults. Because like you said, he only has had a handful of years here under his belt. It's not his fault that, he's not being well received because he's not ready yet. You're talking about guys, if we're talking about Stone Colds and Shawn Michaels and all these guys, Bret Hart's, whatever, they had years upon years of experience before they made it to the top of the plateau.
They brought him in as Rocky Maivia. They kind of slowly, here's a couple of matches. He stayed mid-card for a long time. Then he won the IC title. Then he lost the IC title. I mean, it was a long process. And the character was different beforehand. So you got to take guys through that process. They may have shot themselves in the foot just a little bit by bringing Roman Reigns in with the Shield, because that automatically jetpacked to main event. And maybe they should have brought him in, bring him through the mid-card, give him a couple of years experiencing the mid-card, and then learn how to get over by yourself, give him the IC title, put him in some feuds with Ziggler, put him in some feuds with Ryback, and then he goes up. Then he goes to the top level.
Yeah, and you say The Rock, that's actually a pretty good example both ways, because if you look at when The Rock first came in, they were set to jetpack that guy to the top because of his look. With the Rocky Maivia character, what happened? Nobody bought it.
Yep.
Everybody thought it sucked, and it backfired on them. Luckily, a talent like The Rock was resilient enough to redefine himself and became, one of the best of all time. That's what I'm saying with Roman Reigns. Now, if they just give him some time to find himself, he could very well do the same. Forward here, because believe it or not, Roman Reigns is not the only topic of discussion for this week's Sharpshoot. Before we move on to the final 2 topics here, I just want to quickly remind you guys to click subscribe. If you like this show, if you're digging the show so far, please do us a huge favor and hit subscribe. And you'll never miss another episode of The Sharpshoot with AuSSy again. And you'll also get to catch shows like React After Raw with my man Alec down here. And you'll also get to hear Before the Bell with Matt Donato, which is a pretty solid audio cast that's been going on. Matt is getting geared up for 2015, and he's set to make a big push. Now, is he going to get anywhere near the Sharpshoot? Probably not. But, that's good for Matt, and we're happy for him. And while you're at it, go ahead, follow us on Twitter. It's right there underneath me here on the screen. All of our social media. Go take a look. Do us a huge favor, though, because I can tell you to subscribe, I can tell you to follow, I can tell you to do all this stuff, and you might do it, but it might not help us. The number one favor that I can ask of you guys, the viewers, the rope breakers out there, please tell your friends. If you know any wrestling fans out there, listen, I know we're few and far between this day and age. It's 2015. Tell your friends, and the word of mouth spreads better than anything. And of course, go support our friends over at the Talkin' Wrestling Network as well. Now, I got some other exciting news to announce. We've actually struck a deal with our friend Joe Cronin of the Joe Cronin Show, and Joe Cronin is going to be set to do his own little series on Rope Break Wrestling's YouTube page called Morning Joe. And Joe will be starting that pretty soon. We will keep you updated. But if you're the best thing you can do is just hit subscribe, and you won't need an update. You'll just see it when it comes into our feed. Morning Joe, that's coming to Rope Break Wrestling very soon.
Love that name.
Now, moving back to Joe. Yeah, Morning Joe. It's gonna be a solid show, that's for sure. Moving back into the show, a lot of discussion about the Authority's return to WWE TV this past Monday night on Raw. And I've got the feeling that I'm the Lone Ranger when I say I think this is a good move. A lot of people are infuriated, furious, pissed off. This is stupid. This ruins Survivor Series. This makes no sense. I don't get it. Why did they do that? It makes Sting look weak. It makes Ziggler look weak. No, not in my eyes. I'll tell you real quick what I think, and I'll open it up to you guys to dispute, if you will. The number one reason why the Authority is back when they are is because we need the build for the WrestleMania feud between Triple H and Sting, or whoever Triple H is going to face at WrestleMania. Listen, this isn't something that's just going to build, over 2 episodes of Raw going into WrestleMania or going into the Royal Rumble or whatever. If you want this match to really mean something, you need several months of build, and that's exactly why they're back. I think they did a good job with the way they brought the Authority back. It was excellent writing for once. You had the backstage segment with John Cena and Edge where they reconciled. They, shook hands. It's let bygones be bygones, and then later on in the show, Cena was put in a position where he had to make a decision whether or not he was going to man up to the handshake that he had previously in the show. So and it also gave a great amount of heat to Seth Rollins. So I don't understand. I thought it was a well-worked segment all across the board. I think it did great for Seth Rollins. It doesn't hurt John Cena. It brings back the Authority because clearly they were dropping the ball on the Authority figure angle. The GM, one week it was the computer again. The next week it's Daniel Bryan. They were fumbling. They had no idea what to do. They need an Authority figure back on the show. Now, am I excited for the Authority to open up every single Raw from here to WrestleMania? Probably not. But that's also part of the burn. You know what I mean? Last year, everybody was... Can you remember how pissed everybody was last year when they kept screwing Daniel Bryan out of the title? And everybody, it just goes over people's heads. They just don't get it. They think they're smart. They think they're smarter than, the system. That is exactly what they want you to think. They want you to be pissed that Brock Lesnar has the title and he isn't ever on TV. That makes him more of a heel because he's not there. They want you to be pissed that the Authority's back. because now it's going to be that much sweeter when Sting comes in and does whatever he's about to do, or however they work the angle. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in this boat, but I think the Authority coming back. I don't know. Maybe I just want to see Stephanie McMahon strutting her stuff around there. I don't know. Alec, what do you think?
I'm definitely in agreement with you there on the Authority coming back. I think it was the right time. Obviously, they really did drop the ball on the guest GM thing. It wasn't working, so they need a solid Authority figure going into WrestleMania. So it opens up. They did a good job in finding a way to bring them back in the right manner. And then, like you said, it opens up, the gateway to bring Sting in and build up Sting versus Triple H. And, they can do any angle they want. WrestleMania, if Sting wins and Triple H is gone, whatever it may be, they can find a way to build it up nicely. And then, of course, the Authority will find a way to, try and screw over Dolph Ziggler, Daniel Bryan, all those guys who they don't see, as the prime players in the company. So it'll give them good support as their faces. But I don't see, why people are so upset that the Authority's back. I mean, would you rather see, another 2-3 months without a solid Authority figure at the helm? Just a bunch of different, old superstars and celebrities just coming in and being hosts or whatever it may be. It's just not going to work. So they did it the right way. It was perfect timing. It all made sense. So it's going to work out well, going forward, going into WrestleMania season.
Alex, you really have any dispute to that?
No, I pretty much agree. Yeah. Like you said, we're gonna get to see the wonderful every single week. Welcome, my husband. Every week, but I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, first, like, people who are complaining, how do you do WrestleMania without this, without the Authority being brought back? How do you? Everybody complains, oh, WWE never makes sense. They're making sense. How are we complaining about this? Like, you can't just have Triple H come in and have a match against Sting that means nothing out of nowhere. You gotta have gasoline to pour on the fire. This is that gasoline.
Absolutely. And you say, Stephanie McMahon coming out, everybody hates the 15-minute segment that starts off Raw with the Authority. Again, you are supposed to hate it because they are heels. That's the problem with today's product, is that so many people love to get behind the heels. And I can attest to that because my favorite superstar is the number 2 heel in Rollins. But too many people like to they think for some reason they're supposed to be pleased by every single thing that happens. No. Remember last year, like I said, when everybody was furious that Daniel Bryan kept getting screwed over, they just need to give this guy the title. Triple H has got this idea of big dudes that can only win the title and blah 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 blah. And then he finally wins the title and it's Pop City.
Yeah.
That's exactly why they did what they did the entire year.
I like
because it makes for a bigger payoff.
Yeah. And this is going to make the Sting match. The Survivor Series match still was match of the year in a lot of people's mind. And you brought Sting in an angle that made sense, and you got Ziggler over. I mean, who cares if the stipulation was erased? Nobody's if you really care about the product, you don't care that the stipulation's erased. You care that, okay, Ziggler got put over. That's what we've wanted for, 2 years now? You care that Sting got brought in. That's what we've wanted ever since WrestleMania. Those are the things that you care about. You care that it was match of the year. It was a fantastic match. You don't care about anything else. I mean, you don't care, oh, the stipulation's erased. Now what they're going to do is Sting is going to have a way to come back in and say, you know what, it got put in Cena's hands the first time. I'm going to come back. I'm going to do it right. That automatically puts Sting above Cena. I'm going to come back. I'm going to do it right. Triple H, it's me, you, WrestleMania. When I beat you, the Authority is no more ever again. And then Sting's going to come back. They're going to get in a heated angle. And then at WrestleMania, Sting's going to take the Authority away. And bam. Can you make a bigger impact than actually you're the one who takes the. I mean, because it was Ziggler. Ziggler was the guy who won the match. It wasn't Sting. Sting came out and affected the ending. Now you're going to have Sting winning the match. It's all him. He's going to be the guy that ends the Authority. And it'll go down in history. It'll go down in the record books. Sting came into WWE and destroyed the Authority.
And rode off into the sunset. And that's exactly how it should be. And, you know, not a lot of people are really understanding that. And I have to just point this out. And, you know, I usually don't point fingers and stuff like, you know, the other guys, and that's all I'm going to leave them at, they posted an article that literally has this headline. Bringing back the Authority so soon hurts the significance of Survivor Series.
No. Ziggler was the significance of Survivor Series. You got to bring Sting in. That's the significance.
Well, no. Yeah, it's that, and it's the fact that Survivor Series is in the past.
Yeah, it's over.
We can't go back and hurt the significance of, you know, that you know, if Triple H loses to Sting at WrestleMania 2000 when he won when he retained the championship in the Fatal 4-Way. No, it makes no sense. That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Maybe it was clickbait because it got me to click in a furious fit of rage. But that's why you stay out of the bleachers and you get in the ring with Rope Break. Very simply put. But you know, Alex, I agree with you, and I say that, you know, I like to do a lot of fantasy booking, and Fantasy Booking Friday is definitely something that in 2015 RopeBreakWrestling.com is committed as a part of our New Year's resolution. That is going to become a big deal. Fridays are going to become Fantasy Booking Fridays. We've got some kind of podcast in the works there, and definitely I'm going to continue writing the column. Actually, Fantasy Booking Friday will be surrounded by how to book Rusev this year for WrestleMania. How I think Rusev should be booked for WrestleMania, and hopefully you guys check that out. But in terms of fantasy booking, I mean, let me put it this way. If we're talking about the Authority angle here, Alec, do you tell me if you like this or if you don't? I think that Sting comes back, ends the Authority for good, and in the meantime, it's a massive change of guard because you've got the Authority is going to be leaving the building, and Brock Lesnar is going to be leaving the building in all likelihood. So the two leaders of the WWE, so to speak, are going to be gone. It's going to be a switching of the guard. But I think the perfect way to end WrestleMania is with both of those teams losing and only one rising. So Seth Rollins cashes in Money in the Bank and wins at WrestleMania. However, there's no more Authority, there's no more Lesnar, and Paul Heyman has now aligned himself with Seth Rollins. So now we go into the new WWE year with Seth Rollins as champion with Paul Heyman, but they no longer have the Authority to help them, and Paul Heyman no longer has Brock Lesnar to get him out of sticky situations. I think it still makes for a ruthless heel in Rollins, especially if you have Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar. Daniel Bryan somehow pulls out the win, and then you bring Seth Rollins out to curb stomp him into the mat, pin him for the title. Holy sheep shit on a shingle. That would be massive heat for Seth Rollins and massive sympathy for Daniel Bryan. That would immediately cement the SummerSlam main event in my eyes as Rollins versus Daniel Bryan. But I think that's what needs to happen. And then you've got two top guys there. It could even be done with Dolph Ziggler. Same deal. Finally wins the championship, gets curb stomped and screwed over. But then going forward, there's no more Authority and there's no more Lesnar. So now you've got room, Ziggler or the face Daniel Bryan, to come in and do whatever it takes to win that championship back. So what do you think of that?
I'm completely on board with that plan. I think that's, the best scenario. I think that'll be the thing that gets the best reaction out of the fans and will invest the fans emotionally
Also, you know what that would do?
if it
That'd be the
happens.
second time that Money in the Bank was cashed in to steal Brian's dreams away. How much would that piss everybody off?
Very true.
Yeah.
Wait till SummerSlam again? No, you can't because Money in the Bank's before that. Dang it. That'd be
Yeah. I'll tell you what though. We saw the reaction that the streak ending got, and Alec, I saw your reaction to the streak ending because you were in my apartment when it happened. And I think we get a similar reaction if you get Dolph Ziggler in that ring or Daniel Bryan in that ring with not with Roman Reigns, with Brock Lesnar, and they win the championship. Just imagine it. Confetti falling. Finally, so-and-so has won the championship, and then out of nowhere, Seth Rollins ruins it all. Confetti still fresh on the faces of little boys and girls in the crowd. Seth Rollins ruins it. It'd be like I could just see that Vince McMahon clip playing in my head from the Stone Cold and Mike Tyson exchange. You ruined it, damn it! You ruined it.
I think it's perfect.
It would just be gold.
I think
Uh,
I've pretty much booked WrestleMania based on Bryan returning at Raw.
yeah.
You gotta have Bryan win the Rumble, I think, and you gotta have Bryan go against Brock. And I think Bryan needs to beat Brock at WrestleMania and take his spot at the top of the company.
I think that's actually a perfect segue into the final topic of the
Hey.
evening, which is who wins the Rumble. And we just talked about a couple people. Obviously, we've been hearing for months upon months that it's going to be Roman Reigns. Daniel Bryan returns. He immediately seems like the logical choice. And then you've got Dolph Ziggler in the mix as well. First off, before we pick a winner, I think that the final three has to be the Shield. The three members of the Shield. I just think that entire year, obviously Royal Rumble is like the final event of the WWE year. That year culminating with those three guys ending the Rumble, I think you've got a good, even Dean Ambrose as winner would work because you could have, Seth Rollins eliminate Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose eliminate Seth Rollins or whatever.
Remember at this time last year we were looking at the Rumble like, man, this has no winners except for like one or two.
Mm-hmm.
And this year it's like complete opposite. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're all hoping that what we've heard over the past months will not be true. But I mean, do you all know how much of a absolute disaster the Royal Rumble was last year? Because everybody felt that Daniel Bryan needed to win that Royal Rumble, and WWE just stubbornly went into their plans of, hey, Batista is going to win the Royal Rumble. So I think they should learn from that mistake that they made last year, because with Triple H versus Daniel Bryan as a qualifier match to get into the championship match, I think it would have been a little bit more organic had it been Daniel Bryan to win the Royal Rumble. Either way, that's water under the bridge. I think that winning the Royal Rumble is a big deal for whoever does it. And, you know what I mean? Even though Daniel Bryan overcame and won the title at Mania, he will never be able to say that he won that Royal Rumble.
It's the same way.
Uh,
You look back. There's only been
right.
There's only been what, like 28 Royal Rumbles, 27 Royal Rumbles, I believe, because it was 3 years after the first Mania, I think.
Yeah, so that would make sense.
I mean, and you gotta also count in for repeat winners. Then you gotta count in for invisible winners like Bis Crenois. I mean, there's only been so many people who can say, "Hey, I'm a Royal Rumble winner." Like,
right.
You got Shawn Michaels, you got Steve Austin, Bret Hart, John Cena, Randy Orton. I mean, huge guys.
Edge,
Undertaker, Triple H.
Vince McMahon.
Yeah. Yeah. I won the Rumble.
But in all seriousness, though, you think about it, it's still a big deal to win that Royal Rumble, like we're saying. So who wins it this year? I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed to see them winning. The only issue I see nowadays or this year is that we don't have the heavyweight championship to fall back on. So, in years past, if somebody won the Royal Rumble, they got to choose who they were going to face,
Right.
Are they going to face the heavyweight champion or the WWE champion? Now it's kind of just you have the one champion to face, and that really narrows it down for me at least, because I don't see a guy like Ryback winning the Royal Rumble, because I don't see a guy like Ryback headlining WrestleMania. Could I
Right.
see a guy like Ryback in the World Heavyweight Championship picture? Yes. Same with a guy like Rusev or a guy like Bray Wyatt or a guy like Roman Reigns. I could even see in the Heavyweight Championship picture. But the WWE title just is a little bit more prestigious for me. So when I'm talking about guys, at least there's only a couple guys that I would like to see win the Rumble this year, and that would be Dolph Ziggler, Daniel Bryan, Dean Ambrose, or Seth Rollins. Those four. But I don't think Rollins needs to win it, so I don't really necessarily want
I
him
don't
to
think
win.
Rollins will
But if
be
he
there.
did, I wouldn't be, pissed off about it.
I was actually thinking about this this morning. I was like, I don't know if Rollins will be in there or not. I mean, they've done it before where they've put everybody except the world champion and the number one contender that fight earlier that night in the match. So I don't know if they'll do it that way this year. But I don't know if Rollins needs to be in there. He's still got the briefcase. I don't know if it's necessary.
Yeah, he's got the briefcase, but I think he could get in there, especially if he's not going to be in the title picture at WrestleMania. They do like to use the Royal Rumble as a way to start feuds. Like, you look at Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, their WrestleMania, what was it, WrestleMania 19 feud.
Yeah.
That really kicked off in the Royal Rumble. Um, they like to start side feuds in the Royal Rumble. I think you could have, even if you had a Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins match at WrestleMania, you could have those two battle it out and have one eliminate the other and then work off of that to continue their feud.
Yeah.
So, and I think that Rollins is also too good of a worker. I think you could have him.
Yeah, I mean, when you can go twice in a night without any problem, why not?
Right, definitely. So that remains to be seen, though.
What
But
about Rusev? Could you see?
like I said with Rusev, I see him more as like a heavyweight champion right now than I would a
I don't see
WWE
it
champion.
yet. But Daniel Bryan needs to win it. That's the stance I take. Is he needs to win it. Worries me a little bit that they didn't bring him back. Surprise number 30. The fact that they brought him back and he announced, that kind of worries me, because why not bring him back as a surprise number 30? I mean, remember John Cena in 2008 when he came back, popped up?
Yeah.
The reaction was massive.
What would even be better for Daniel Bryan? Oh, it would have been a great surprise entrant number 2. Daniel Bryan comes in as number 2 and runs the table.
Number 1 and runs the table. That would have been
sweet.
Fantastic.
The only reason I see the only reason I see them bringing Daniel Bryan back before the Rumble, the reason that they did was to reacclimate him with the fans, because I feel like they had a fear that people had forgotten about Daniel Bryan and no longer had any sympathy for him or whatever. I'm not necessarily saying that I agree with their point, but I'm saying I think they wanted to bring him back to reacclimate himself and maybe see how the fans reacted. And I think they reacted well enough for him to get that shot. But Alex thinks that Daniel Bryan should win. I'm probably in agreement as of right now. Daniel Bryan should be the Rumble winner. What is your view on the situation?
I think, we'll just make it a clean sweep here and call it Daniel Bryan. I think after you see the reaction he got on Monday night,
that was huge.
It doesn't make sense creatively to have anybody else win, and I guess not to have anybody else win cleanly. If you're not going to have Daniel Bryan win the Rumble, then he has to be screwed out by someone in the authority, whether it's Triple H, Seth Rollins, Kane. It has to be somebody that takes him out that's a huge heel, so it doesn't get a negative reaction when, say, a guy like Roman Reigns wins the Rumble. Because we saw the reaction that Batista got last year when, they wanted Daniel Bryan there and they didn't get it. So if you're going to have Daniel Bryan in the Rumble and he's not going to win, he has to get screwed out of there some way so it doesn't, make the fans turn on Reigns when and if he does win. But overall, I think
Yeah, I think that
Daniel
if Roman
Bryan.
Reigns wins,
I think no matter what, Reigns can't win. It's gonna hurt him more than
go
it's
ahead.
gonna hurt him.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. But overall,
Yeah.
at the end, it really needs to be Daniel Bryan who takes it, goes on, faces Lesnar at Mania, beats Lesnar. Lesnar goes away. Rollins comes in, curb stomps him, gets the title, and then essentially Lesnar passes the torch on to Rollins as hey, you're the top heel now. Run with it.
Now, quickly, real quick, how would you book Daniel Bryan to beat Brock Lesnar? Because he's the underdog, he's the little guy. Lesnar destroyed John Cena. If you're booking this, how would you book Bryan to beat Lesnar?
See, I had a perfect scenario that would help everybody in terms of how exactly it would happen. So I would make this some kind of, no disqualification match where you've got, maybe Paul Heyman chooses the stipulation or something like that. Over how that would happen, I've yet to book, but I'm saying it should go in as some sort of no disqualification match, and we get somebody to come in there to really do some damage to Daniel Bryan, and at that point you get Roman Reigns to come for the save. Now the reason I'm saying this is because that immediately gives Roman Reigns some positive, some steam,
Yep.
because otherwise, if you're forcing Roman Reigns into the main event or you're forcing Roman Reigns on whoever, it's not going to work. But if Roman Reigns comes to the aid of everybody's favorite wrestler, Daniel Bryan, that's going to get, some brownie points for Reigns. And then you're also not going to just give Daniel Bryan a completely clean win over Brock Lesnar, because that might not necessarily be believable. But if you mix in chairs and shit like that, you give Daniel Bryan a little bit of a chance. I could see. I'm not, like I said, I haven't completely booked that out yet or thought about that, but I see a scenario where Roman Reigns comes in and he could greatly benefit from helping Daniel Bryan get that victory. I think that would do a great deal for Roman Reigns.
What about you, Alec? What do you think?
I think that's a pretty solid plan. I think if you have Roman Reigns come in and make the save, it gives it gives him grace points in the fans' eyes. Like, oh hey, he just saved Daniel Bryan. We might like this guy now because we didn't like him 4 months ago. So it might help him in the long run when
Right.
WWE finally decides to put the title on him.
See, I was thinking like more along maybe they bring him back and just he submits everybody he faces. SmackDown Raw, just makes everybody tap out. They bring him in a different submission every night. And he's like, I was time off for a year. I practiced my old submission holds that I knew before I came up here. And then I think it goes in as Bryan the submission expert against Brock the powerhouse. And they kind of go to where CM Punk almost made Brock tap at SummerSlam. They kind of go on that. And then it's believable because he catches him in a submission just like Frank Mir did. Throwback to UFC. He catches him he gets dominated the whole match, catches him in a submission, and then Brock has to tap out or something.
Yeah, I think the logical way for Daniel Bryan to win that would be a submission, and
You could
they
even
could even
Brock,
play
like,
off of the
I don't
UFC
care
stuff
about
if they
this.
wanted
Like,
to.
Brock comes out, I don't care. I'm going to UFC after this anyways. Not he wouldn't say that, of course, but I'm leaving this company after this match anyways. I don't care. I just don't want to get hurt. Then he gets caught in the submission where his arm's going to get broken and he has to tap out so he can go make money in UFC.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily have him announce that he's
Yeah.
going to UFC or even say, that he doesn't want to get hurt, but I would play up the fact that Daniel Bryan could mention something like, oh, Frank Mir tapped you out,
Yeah.
that's, just imagine what I'm going to do to you or blah, 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 blah. And then they could definitely have uh, a submission. But how cool would it be if Daniel Bryan reversed an F5 into some kind of
Into like the
yes lock or something?
yes lock or whatever. That'd be
That'd
awesome.
be awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely something that could happen. But unfortunately, it's about that time. So I want to first off thank Alex Carter from Talking Wrestling for joining us on this week's show, and of course Alec from React After Raw on RopeBreakWrestling.com. As always, it's a pleasure. Alex, we'll definitely have to have you back.
I had a great time, guys. If you're watching this, go check out Talking Wrestling Network. Talking Wrestling Network, just type it in the YouTube search bar. It'll be the first result. And hit subscribe. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming for 2015. Some surprise big hosts coming to the network, so keep your eye out for that. And a couple new shows will be popping up soon. So I had a lot of fun, guys. It was awesome.
Yeah, and of course, like we said earlier, subscribe to Talking Wrestling, and of course, subscribe to Rope Break Wrestling. Why? Don't support those guys in the bleachers. Get in the ring with real wrestling fans with talking about and aren't getting paid. And until next week, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you later. If you smell what the AuSSy is cooking.